Okay, so we'll look at completing the square. For those of you who've done GCSE Further Maths, you'll have seen the most basic version of this, but we have to do a few more complicated things this year. So it's just another way of writing quadratics. So what we do, the coefficient of x is 8. We add on half the coefficient squared and then take it away again, because this means that we can write this first part here as x plus 4 all squared, and then we've got minus 16 plus 3. So we can write it as x plus 4 all squared minus 13. Now we will talk about why we write it like that and the uses of writing it like that once we've kind of practiced a few of them. So next one, x squared minus 12x minus 5. So do it exactly the same way. We add on half the coefficient squared and take it away again, which means this first bit. Now the only difference here in this question, this one was a plus, so we have a plus in the brackets. This one is a minus, so we have a minus in the bracket. So we get x minus 6 all squared minus 36 minus 5. So we get x minus 6 all squared minus 41. So that's as far as you would have gone at GCSE Further Maths. Okay, so the next one a wee bit more complicated. 2x squared minus 10x plus 5. We do completing the square when it's just x squared, so we need to take the 2 out. I'm just going to leave the plus 5 on its own on the outside of the bracket, just to make it easier, because if it had been maybe a 4, I would have taken it inside the bracket because we can take 2 out easily, but because we can't, I'm just leaving it there. So inside the bracket, as before, add on 5 over 2 squared, take 5 over 2 squared away. This first part here then we can write as x minus 5 over 2 squared minus 25 over 4, multiplied back in then by 2. And we get 2 upon x minus 5 over 2 all squared minus 25 over 2 plus 5, and then tidy up our minus 25 over 2 plus 5, and we'll get minus 15 over 2. So it's just a wee extra step then if you get something in front of the x squared. Okay, so going on to solve equations using completing the square. Now in an exam, if it just tells you to solve a quadratic, you can do it whatever way you want. You can use factorising or the quadratic formula or completing the square. With a bit of practice you will get to see which one is easier with each different question. But if the question actually tells you solve using completing the square, if you don't use completing the square, you'll not get any marks. Okay, so x squared plus 3x minus 1, so it's x squared plus 3x plus half the coefficient squared minus half the coefficient squared minus 1. So this part becomes x plus 3 over 2 all squared minus 9 over 4 minus 1. So that's x plus 3 over 2 all squared minus 13 over 4 equals 0. So bring the minus 13 over 4 across, and it becomes positive. Take the square root on both sides. Remember, when we take a square root, we get a plus and a minus. Now the square root of 13 over 4 we can write as root 13 over root 4. Now we can't do anything for root 13, but we can write 4 as 2. And then I'm going to bring the 3 over 2 across, and it'll become a minus 3 over 2. So we'll have minus 3 over 2 plus or minus the root of 13 over 2. And I would write it as one whole fraction like that, just to tidy it up a wee bit. Okay, part B. 3x squared plus 4x minus 5 equals 0. So in example 1, when we were completing the square and we had a 2x squared, we took the 2 out, and that's because it was an expression, so it didn't equal anything, so we couldn't divide through, so we had to take 2 out as a factor. This now is an equation, it equals 0, so we can divide through by 3 to make it easier. So x squared plus 4 over 3x, so we'll be adding half the coefficient squared and taking it away again. And then your 5 would be 5 over 3. So this first part goes to x plus 2/3 squared minus 4 over 9 minus 5 over 3. Minus 4/9 minus 5 over 3 is minus 19 over 9. And then I'm going to bring it across and it becomes plus 19 over 9. Taking the square root. Again, square root of 19 stays the way it is. Square root of 9 is 3. So we get x plus 2/3 equals plus or minus root 19 over 3. And bring the 2/3 across and it becomes a minus 2/3. And again, combine the two to write it like that. Okay, so the next thing you'd have to do, find the maximum or minimum value of the following, and I've realised I've just left half of minimum out. Okay, maximum and minimum value of the following and where it occurs. So y equals x squared plus 3x plus 4. So we start in the same way and complete the square. Add on half the coefficient squared, take it away again. So that's x plus 3 over 2 all squared minus 9 over 4 plus 4. So y equals x plus 3 over 2 all squared plus 7 over 4. Now, so look at the graph. This is a positive x squared, so you know it's going to be that sort of shape. So it's going to have a minimum value, and it's going to happen when this bracket here equals 0. So that happens when x is minus 3 over 2, and it'll give a value of y as 7 over 4. And what that means in a practical way when you're drawing the graph, minus 3 over 2, if you go to that on your x-axis, and on your y-axis go to 7 over 4, that point is your minimum point. So your graph will look something like that. Okay, so part B, y equals (5 minus 2x minus 4x squared). So we want to write it in the format that we're used to. So minus 4x squared minus 2x plus 5. Now this time we'll have to take minus 4 outside the bracket, and I'm left with x squared plus a half x inside the bracket, and again I'm keeping the 5 on the outside. So we've got minus 4 upon x squared plus a half x plus a quarter squared minus a quarter squared plus 5. So we get x plus a quarter all squared minus 1 over 16 in that bracket. Multiply out by 4. Sorry, minus 4. And then tidy up. And we'll get a quarter plus 5 gives you 21 over 4. And I'm just putting it at the front just to make it a bit tidier. Minus 4 upon x plus a quarter all squared. So this is a negative graph. So we know it's that sort of shape. So we're going to be looking for a maximum value. So we're always taking something away from 21 over 4. So our maximum value is going to be 21 over 4. And it occurs when this whole thing is 0, which means x has to be minus a quarter. Again, if we're drawing a graph, if we go to minus a quarter and 21 over 4 on your y-axis, that's going to be our maximum value. So your graph will be that sort of shape.